This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Beyond the darkness, beyond the human evolution, is Khan, a genetically superior tyrant. Exiled to a barren planet, banished by a starship commander he is destined to destroy. Left for dead, he has survived.
I'll chase him round the moons of Nibia and round the Antares maelstrom and round perdition's flames before I give him up. There she is. There she is.
Shield collapsing, Captain.
Give me major power. A few shots, son.
Not enough against their shields.
The base is stubborn.
Scotty, I need warp speed in 3 minutes or we're all dead.
I've done far worse than kill you. I've hurt you. And I wish to go on hurting you. I shall leave you as you left me, marooned for all eternity, buried alive, buried alive. Sean! Sean!
At the end of the universe lies the beginning of vengeance. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Wow, was that a great trailer or what? Whose voice was that? Is the seaplane landing on the dock of Fantasy Island? Is he going to sell us a car with rich Corinthian leather? Welcome to Chapter 2 of our 10-part series here on Pop Goes the Classics of the Star Trek motion picture franchise, the original. I'm your co-host, Scott Criscolo. Joining me, former purveyor of OpenTheFridge.net, Rob Piontek. Tech.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
I never do either. Hey, look, man, I'm a wrestling fan. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. Anyway, always good to have you back, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Yes, we had a great part one. I hope everyone enjoyed Star Trek the Motion Picture. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. We are on Chapter 2. And on tonight's episode, we are going to discuss the first legitimate nominee for the greatest Star Trek movie of all time. One of us has it on that list. The other one has it really close. We'll let you know which one is which at the end. Of course, we are talking about Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Khan! Yes, I know. One of us had to do it. We'll get to it. Which came out 3 years later on June 4th, 3 days after my birthday, 1982. This movie is awesome. Done! Yay! Love 5-minute podcast. No, I'm just kidding. No. So after the moderate success, I wouldn't say failure, moderate success of Star Trek the Motion Picture, Paramount realized that we can't have Roddenberry doing these 2.5-hour dream soliloquy type movies. So, as they used to say with managers who couldn't hack it in the field anymore, Gene got kicked upstairs and became an executive consultant, which meant he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Sadly, my first question to you, sir, it's tough, right? You don't want to do that to the guy who actually made this franchise, but at the same time, we need movie people doing this. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as we said in the last episode, or hinted at least, Gene was very much a television writer. And yeah, he wanted to tell his stories, which is very admirable, of course. I mean, look at what that original series did. Look at the stories it told. But we've made the jump to movies. And movies do what, like, you have one shot to make money. Let's not mince words. The movie business is a business. They're in the business of making money. So here we are, yes, we want to make a cool Star Trek movie, but we want to make a cool Star Trek movie that will get people to buy tickets. So that's your main impetus. So yeah, sadly they had to kind of shove Gene aside and say, thank you for letting us play in your sandbox, but we'll take it from here.
Kind of had to be done, sadly. No disrespect to Gene, and I think a lot of people, when you watch the DVD of the Wrath of Khan, the special features, that's kind of what they say. They're like, sorry, Gene, thank you for the thoughts, and the first movie was good, but we got this now. We just kind of needed a little bit of a hand-holding. We're good, thanks. Kind of sucked, but unfortunately needed to be done. Because we couldn't have another one like that, or else this franchise would have probably ended. Since the first movie, the following year, in May of 1980, the other side of I shouldn't say the side of the hallway, but the other
camp
came out, which by the way was on TNT today. In fact, I think all of them were. Maybe it's just the first trilogy, but of course, I'm talking about Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, which is
happy 40th anniversary, Empire.
Yes, obviously the greatest movie of all time in the Star Wars franchise. That one's almost undisputed. Almost. I'm sure some say others, but it's almost undisputed.
Oh, every Star Wars movie is somebody's favorite and somebody's least favorite.
That is true. You're probably right. So 2 years later, in 1982, by the way, which you and I have discussed, is not a weak year for movies.
Oh, God.
That's for sure. We'll get into that later because I'm going to rip off that list of movies. I'll get into that later. Because 1982 was arguably one of the greatest nerd years for movies ever.
It's up there with 89.
It is up there with 89.
Which may reign supreme in my opinion. But.
Yeah, 81 is pretty great. Raiders came out in 81 and a couple others, but 82 is pretty badass because plenty of Harrison to go around. 3 straight summers, Harrison had a great movie. He had Empire Strikes Back in 80. He had Raiders in 81, and then another movie we'll mention later that I watched recently in 82. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, so Paramount realized they needed to make a tighter movie. With a tighter plot, something more linear. We need a good villain, maybe some new characters. We need to fix this. And the way to do it is to bring in TV people, movie people that know how to make a movie. We've got the story. We need TV people to execute it. So now Gene wrote his own sequel. In his plot, you ready for this? The crew of the Enterprise travel back in time to set right a corrupted timeline after Klingons used the Guardian of Forever to prevent the assassination of Kennedy. That's stupid.
Ugh.
That is an awful movie.
I've never heard that. Wow.
Maybe a good TV plot, but again, good TV, good episodic plot. Horrible movie plot. How the hell are you going to tell that story in 2 friggin' hours? Forget it. Pass. Sorry, Gene. Love you, buddy. Not happening. Paramount's like, no. You're going upstairs. Harv Bennett, a name we'll talk about a lot from here on out, Paramount producer, was made producer for this film. Now, according to him, he was called in front of a group, including Jeffrey Katzenberg and the aforementioned, as you mentioned in the last episode, Michael Eisner, and asked if he thought he could make a better picture than the first one, to which he said he thought it was really dull. Bennett said, yes, I can. James Bluedorn asked, quote, can you make it for less than $45 friggin' million? Bennett replied, where I come from, I can make 5 movies for that.
And that's saying something because the first movie had a budget of $35 million, and it made $82.6. So commercially, it was a success.
Right.
But yeah, to have Harv Bennett say, "Oh, with the amount of money you're telling me, absolutely," because he came from TV.
Yep, he absolutely did. But he never saw he never watched the show. That always makes you a little leery. He watched some episodes of the show, and he was convinced, and you and I said this because you gave the villain grade a 4 on our first episode, what we needed was a good bad guy. So Harv watched selected episodes of the original series, and fortunately, among the random episodes he watched Space Seed. And who was the bad guy in Space Seed? Mr. Rourke. No, not Mr. Rourke. Well, not the character, but
not yet.
Not yet. And we needed a good villain. So we go back through the catalog of the original series, and Harv Bennett finds Khan Noonien Singh, a genetically enhanced tyrant, as they said in the trailer. One of my favorite episodes, by the way. In the episode, he's, their crew is like frozen in time, I think, or frozen on their ship, like frozen, like, in stasis. Goes on the ship and tries to play nice, and in the end, he tries to take the Enterprise over and kill everybody, and Kirk sends him to Ceti Alpha 5 on the Botany Bay. Fast forward to 1980. Harv starts watching some of the episodes. He watches Space Seed and goes, that's what this movie needs. An actual bad guy. Harv gets Robert Salin, I think, to produce the film, make it quick and cheap.
$11.2 million.
Yeah. First film treatment. Yeah, big fraction. Oh, yeah. First film treatment in November of 80. It was going to be titled The War of the Generations. Kirk investigates a rebellion on a distant world and discovers that his son is the leader of the rebels. Khan is the mastermind behind the plot, and Kirk and son join forces to defeat the tyrant. They weren't crazy about that. So, in the episode, a group of scientists is working on a project that would create new planets from dead planets. As they are searching a planet that should have no life on it, we find Ceti Alpha 5. Confused because Chekhov and a new cast member or member of this movie, Captain
Burrell.
Shit. Yes. Played, of course, expertly by Paul Winfield. Find the this deserted base or whatever. And then one of my favorite moments ever when Chekhov looks at the seatbelt thing and goes, Botany Bay. Botany Bay. Oh, no. Great job there by Walter Koenig.
Great read, Walter. Great read,
Walter. We got to get out of here. And, of course, Khan somehow gets onto the Reliant, which was Terrell's ship, and the back and forth ensues between Khan and his old enemy Kirk, who dumped him in the middle of nowhere. Plot. Pretty damn good.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's pretty damn good. What an upgrade from the first movie in the sense that it's tight, it's linear. We have a villain. We have, nefarious things going on, murder, killing people, and a definitive end. Well, sort of. But a better end maybe than people thought. Yeah, this might be one of the most perfect plots in the history of the movie franchise. Do you agree? Do you concur?
I concur. It is. You're absolutely right. It is tight. It is simple. It is a basic revenge plot. Like, that can get boring or stale real fast. But when you put it in this backdrop, I mean, to the point where Khan literally quotes Melville, Captain Ahab. So
Pretty much.
they're pretty much beating you over the head with it, but it's done so well. And what's crazy is this is a movie that is not dependent, but it definitely helps if you, the viewer, have seen the episode to which it follows up. You know, if you see Space Seed, great. You have all the context. Who is this character? Who, you know, what's the history between him and Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise? But hell, even if you go into it cold, like I did many, many years ago, they pretty much tell you all you need to know. Like, oh, you tried to steal the Enterprise and murder Captain Kirk, and we left you here to, you know, live out your days. But of course, everything goes south, and you know the planet is laid waste. I'm sorry. There are going to be lines where I just have to say in the way Ricardo Montalban says it.
You must. You absolutely must.
There's no other way to do it. But yeah, I mean, and what's cool about it? I mean, yeah, that's your basic plot. You know, Khan is back. He wants to kill Kirk because he left him for dead essentially, and he also blames Kirk for the death of his wife, who was Lieutenant McIvers from the episode. However, you have this whole plot framed by a really cool, I guess, subplot or well, it's more of a theme of Kirk coming to grips with his mortality, because it starts with him, you know. He's watching a new team of cadets trained, you know, be, you know, a starship crew and everything, and it's his birthday, and you know he's just kind of reluctant to even celebrate it. You know, Bones gives him eyeglasses. I mean, if that's not a reminder, I don't know what is. You know, and he meets a son he's never known, who's, you know, a grown man at this point. So it's this fantastic exploration of Kirk's mortality. And the life he's led, and how far, you know, what he's done in the time he's had. And then, of course, you know, just to take it even further, you know, the MacGuffin of the movie is this technology to create life, you know, to the point where, you know, they save the day, they defeat the villain, and at the very end, you know, there's this brand new planet that they've created, and Kirk gazes upon it, and they ask him, you know, how do you feel? He goes, I feel young. You know, he's back out there doing what he loves. You know, he's on the bridge of the Enterprise. You know, it's fantastic from start to finish. Absolutely fantastic.
It really is. I would concur that this is probably a 10 in the plot department. So there we go, a perfect 10.
Yeah. It's hard to even find fault. Like the dialogue is fantastic, the pacing is fantastic, the plot structure is. I can't say enough good things. I know I sound like a yes man, but it's a fact. It's a fact. It's hard to find fault in this movie. It's so damn good.
No, there's no fault in my opinion.
I mean, if you want to get nitpicky, you could always, you know, joke about the big continuity error that. You know, who's the Enterprise crewman who finds Khan? Chekhov. Which Enterprise crewman was not in the episode that Khan was in? Chekhov.
I don't know you, but you. I never forget a face, even though I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I think it was Walter himself who joked that he likes to believe that while we didn't see him, Chekhov was on the Enterprise, but he was off duty, and he took too long in the public bathroom that Khan needed to use, and that's why he remembers his face.
Fine. Screen stuff. But yeah, no, it's amazing. Excuse me. I'm all choked up. This is so great. There we go. Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing wrong with this. I mean, linear plot, amazing villain and his gang of misfits. Let us all take into account B.B. Biche as Carol Marcus. Of course, Jim had to have a thing with her. What else is new? But that thing led to Merritt Butrick as his son, David, who becomes a big plot point for the next two movies. Almost, actually, it becomes a pretty legitimate plot point for the rest of the original cast's time in movies, all the way to part 6. Mm-hmm. So great supporting cast. Now we start getting into the little-known, I wouldn't call them cameos, but now we start seeing young actors in Trek roles. And, of course, the first one that we'll mention is here in this movie where Lieutenant Savick, was she Lieutenant? Yeah. Was played by, before she took over for Sam as being the manager of the Bull and Finch pub. We are, of course, talking about Kirstie Alley. And I always thought that she was not really meant for this movie. She doesn't have that. She would eventually be in, not Terminator, but she was in another kind of sci-fi action-ish movie later in the decade. I'll have to look that up while you comment. But she just didn't look like she fit. Do you know what I mean? Like, she just didn't look like she fit. I have another person, another actress I'm going to mention later on in a future episode that I also don't think fit. But yeah, something about her in this movie didn't fit for me. What do you think?
I don't know if I necessarily agree. I mean, it's easy to look back. Like, when I saw this movie, I knew who Kirstie Alley was. You know, she'd been in Cheers, she had been in the Look Who's Talking movies, you know, a number of things. But I mean, she gets the introducing credit in this. She was pretty much an unknown. So I would be curious to be a person in 1982 seeing this for the first time and seeing her for the first time. With having no, you know, other preconceptions about her. I will say, though, I always thought she made a pretty good Vulcan. It's funny because later on, you know, I forget if it was Harv Bennett or one of the writers, they said that Savick was written to be half Vulcan, half Romulan, which explains why Savick has certain reactions to things. Like she's not, you know, flying off the handle or anything, but she's kind of Spock-esque in terms of, you know, towing that line. The best, of course, is right at the beginning when, you know, she has her simulation thing and Kirk is giving his, you know, very flippant summary of the events, and, you know, he's kind of chewing her out, and she gives him kind of she kind of grits her teeth and repeats, like, "As I said, that had not occurred to me, Admiral." So it's kind of fun to think of it in that regard. But of course, they would just go on later to say, no, she's full Vulcan, but whatever. But on the whole, I liked the character as, you know, the by the book trainee who was, you know, quoting regulations and, you know, say, well, you can't do that. You're supposed to do this. And then Kirk just kind of looks at her and be like, really, you know, know your role, please.
Yeah, exactly. Runaway is the movie I'm talking about, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
with Tom Selleck.
With Tom Selleck. Oh my goodness.
And Gene Simmons. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
But all in all, like, I never really had an issue with her. Yeah, I thought she played the role well, but that's just me.
I mean, she was fine, but I think they definitely upgrade the role, and we'll get into that in the next episode because they recast her.
Oh, absolutely.
So overall, grade for the cast.
See, I again, I don't want to sound like a yes man here, just singing high praises, but here's the thing about this one. You get a fantastic performance from Shatner. Like I said about the whole, you know, he's kind of a little bummed at first, like, you know, I'm just kind of this desk jockey admiral, you know, and I go out on inspection missions and whatever. And Spock's kind of, you know, as we said in the previous episode, we're in Spock 2.0 now, and he's a little cooler. He's a little cooler Spock. You know, he's handing out birthday gifts and you know, making a joke here and there. The scene with him and Kirk in Spock's quarters when Kirk essentially goes in to ask him to take command of the Enterprise. That's fantastic. The two of them in that scene is just awesome because Kirk's, you know, kind of there, hat in hand, so to speak, and he's you know, beating around the bush, being like, you know, well, you know, I know you're in charge, but, you know, we kind of got to do this thing. And Spock just comes out, he's like, Jim, I have no ego to bruise. This is your ship. Take command. You're the experience. You know, it's really great. It's a great moment between these two characters who, again, have history, and it's cool to see Spock kind of, you know, just acknowledge, you know, this is what you got to do. Please don't bother apologizing to me. You know, McCoy is just McCoy. It's all you need. He has a great line. McCoy actually has one of my favorite lines in the movie. It's when he hands Jim the glasses, and he gives him the bottle of Romulan ale, and and then he kind of realizes that Jim's just kind of down in the dumps, and he's all the whole thing like, why most people have birthdays, why are we treating yours like a funeral? But the line I really love is when, again, this is like what McCoy did in the first movie, where he speaks what we're all thinking to Kirk, where he says, Jim, get back your command. Get it back before you become part of this damned collection, before you really do grow old. And it's the moment that kind of gets Kirk up off his ass and, back into action. And then, of course, we go back to the four supporters, Sulu, Uhura, Scotty, and Chekhov. And, not to say anything bad about the majority of them, but, Sulu's just there, flying the ship. George doesn't really get to do a whole lot. Uhura's there, message from so-and-so, Captain, she's just sitting at her console, sadly. If anyone has a lot to do, it's Chekhov, because he starts this movie promoted to first officer of the Reliant, go Chekhov. Not bad for a guy who used to just be the navigator. So he's got plenty to do, and he gets more than featured, being Khan's test subject for the SETI eels going in his ear and all that, and being brainwashed with Captain Terrell and all that. And then Scotty, poor Scotty. Oh, if anyone gets the snot beat at him in this movie, it's him, because not only does the Enterprise get trashed, but his nephew is part of the engineering staff. He's like a fresh trainee, and the poor kid gets killed in the attack. Yeah. And you get this magnificent performance from Jimmy Doohan in sickbay, where he talked about how he stayed at his post when the rest of them ran. It's a really good featured role or featured part. Give Scotty something to do. And then, of course, you got Merritt and BB. They're great. He's a little forced at times, actually, now that I think about it. His line delivery could be a little forced. But BB Bay, she's great. She's very natural. Her line, "Can I cook or can't I?" is one of the best in Trek. And then there's Ricardo Montalban. I'm gonna resist going on for about 15 minutes about this guy, but every line out of his mouth, it's just gold. And he himself,
every line out of his mouth is rich Corinthian leather.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Oh, yes.
Buried alive,
my old friend.
Buried alive. Oh, amazing.
But he, again, we talked about this in the last episode. If you get a chance to watch some of the special features for these movies on either Blu-ray or DVD, please do, because they talked to Ricardo on the Trek 2 DVDs, and he talks about how he had just finished Fantasy Island before they called him up to ask him to be in this movie. And Mr. Rourke is a very kind of straight-laced, one-note character. And he actually had to go back. He watched Space Seed to remind himself what this character was, who this character was, how to play this role, and it worked for him. He felt himself getting back to it. He saw the physicality of it. He heard the line delivery, and he got right back into it. And the enthusiasm about which he talks of it is fantastic. And of course, we have to acknowledge that is his chest.
Yes.
I know a lot of people debate it. No, it's really his those are his giant pecs.
Those are his pecs.
Out. Yeah. But, just from start to finish, he talks about how the first scene where you see him, he takes off his mask, and how the prop, he couldn't see anything. So he has to, take his glove off, then he unpins the piece over his face, then he takes the eyepiece and the headpiece off, and he goes, I couldn't be fumbling with this, I had to, this is a man who commands great respect, great power, I had to do it very slowly and meticulously. And I'm like, this is a guy who gave it his all, So you have to applaud him for the performance, because he is all in, he is committed. So, nothing but props to Ricardo Montalban, even when he's, quoting Moby Dick and all that. And, his great line about, revenge is a dish best served cold. It is very cold in space. And one last thing. It's so funny when you watch the whole movie. And this is all about Kirk's revenge, Khan's revenge on Kirk. And nowhere in this movie do they share a scene.
I know they are not in the same building ever.
Yep. Khan is in 2 locations. He is on SETI Alpha 5 when they find him, and he is on the Reliant. And never once, I mean, they talk to each other, over comms and over the view screen, but they are never in the same scene together. And I think that is one of the biggest regrets of the movie itself, is that there was no actual face-to-face between our hero and our villain.
Yeah. And, of course, he, even in dying, when his face is all messed up and he turns on Genesis, which is, of course, the program that creates. But just amazing. Just amazing. Yeah, a 10 for that. 10 for the cast. 10 for the villain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I absolutely overlapped there. No,
there you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I think I'll give the cast, if we're looking at the cast on a whole, I'll give it a 9.
Okay.
Only because, like I said, some of the like George and Nichelle are just kind of there again.
Window dressing.
Yeah. I'll give the cast a 9, and yeah, Khan definitely gets a 10.
Yeah, definitely. All right. The production. By the way, on a side note, speaking of cast, the actor who played Scotty's nephew, Ike Eisenman, a lot of you Disney fans will remember him. He was in the original Escape from Witch Mountain with Kim Richards. Yeah, he was one of those kids that was in like every Disney movie and ABC after school special in the 70s. He was in Escape to Witch Mountain, Return from Witch Mountain. Yeah, he was in a ton of stuff. So you know him very well when you see him. As a matter of fact, you kind of have to watch the extended cut of this movie because a lot of his lines got cut out, and in the extended cut, you actually find out that he's Scotty's nephew. They don't really allude to that in the theatrical. So you're thinking to yourself, why is Scotty so wrecked about this guy dying? I mean, yeah, we're sad that he's dead and all, but he's just another guy on his crew. Why is he this screwed up about it? Because he was his nephew. But in the theatrical cut, they cut most of that out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So you don't know what the hell what is he getting all wrecked about? Well,
yeah,
watch
there's a scene when Kirk is running through. Well, not running. He's doing his little inspection through engineering, and yeah, there's a lot more dialogue between him and Peter Pressman, who's the character, and Scotty, and Scotty has the line, "My daughter's youngest," I think is what he says.
Yeah, and I mean it's so I'm glad they did that. But Ike Eisenman,
my sister's youngest. I'm sorry.
My sister's youngest. Ike Eisenman, he was in the 2 Witch Mountain movies in the 70s. Big on TV movies, etc. So, I think that's it for cast. Yeah. All right. Production value, or production in general. By the way, not only did Harve Bennett never watch Star Trek before he got this role, but our director Nicholas Meyer, who would end up being kind of linked to this franchise for the next 15 years, also never watched Star Trek. So isn't that amazing?
Yeah, how about that?
That you had 2 guys who never watched the series, and they're so intricately linked in this movie franchise. Unlike the guy who directed the last one in 2002, who didn't have a clue. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
That's yeah, we'll get there.
A whole bowl of wax on that one. Let's not wreck this one by talking about that one. Yeah, Nicholas Meyer knew what he was doing. He tightened the script. Him and Harve worked well together. Enterprise looks so much better here. The Reliant. Tell the Reliant story. I like hearing the Reliant story.
Oh, about the design? Oh, this. Yeah. It's great because, they in the script, you have another Federation starship, and, up until that point, the only others we'd seen on the original series was other Constitution class, so it was just the Enterprise bottle to save money. And the occasional alien spaceship, but yeah, here we are. All right, they're saying, let's make something, that keeps in rhythm with the style. Let's keep the engines the same, let's keep the dish kind of the same. But so for the Reliant, it was more of a compressed version of the Enterprise. So it's just the dish with the engines right behind it, and maybe just a little piece of connection. No big, belly star drive section with the dish and all that. And they submitted a side rendering of it to Harv Bennett, who was like overseas, I think working on another movie or TV show, and he looked at it and he pulled it out of the envelope, and from his perspective, it was upside down. So the engines were now slightly below the dish, and he went, yeah, this looks fine, signs off on it, puts it back in an envelope, and shifts it back to, the U.S. And by the time they got it, they realized, oh, he looked at this, because how his signature was on the sheet. They're like, oh, he looked at this upside down. Do we send it back? And they're like, well, the window's closing on production here, so they just went with it. So that's how we get our Miranda class design, the USS Reliant, which is the dish with the kind of the roll bar and the torpedo launcher above it with the engines slightly below and behind the saucer section there.
Yeah, very weird.
Yeah,
but it ends up being a cool looking ship. That's for
absolutely,
sure.
And and it still did what they wanted. It still looks like it belongs in the same fleet. It's got those shared design elements.
It does. Absolutely. And of course, the epic scene at the end where it's kind of floating with one of the things blown off.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. But now we need to talk about, City Alpha 5, big dirt pit, that works out fine. The inside of the Reliant looks no different than the Enterprise, in terms of, we only see, the only thing we see on the Reliant is the bridge anyway. The Enterprise. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's literally the same set because it's the Enterprise bridge with just a few, excuse me, what they call wild walls, which are pretty much the background walls with the stations, the consoles, and in this case, the turbo lift. So if you look at the Enterprise bridge, the chairs are upholstered in one color, and there are two turbo lift doors, kind of at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And then on the Reliant Bridge, there's one door directly behind Khan at 12 o'clock, and those chairs are a different upholstery. So that's really all it takes is a little bit of different lighting, a little bit of different set dressing, and boom, you've saved yourself a whole nother set.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have the Genesis, what's the name of their thing?
Regula 1.
Regula 1.
The space station.
And yes, the space station, and then of course we have the planet, the Genesis planet, which we'll know more about in the third movie. Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about going back originally to what we were saying about the budget, how this was like a third of the first movie's budget at 11.2 mil. The way Nick Meyer made it work was he already had these sets, he already had these props. They had footage. The approach to the Enterprise is just lifted from the first movie. The Klingon ships in the simulation is lifted from the first movie. The Regula 1 space station is the orbital office from Motion Picture, literally turned upside down.
Yeah.
But in this way, it looks better, I've always thought, and they've kept it this way ever since. Right. So he cut so many corners by just reusing all this stuff they already had, which is a great way to save money. And that's how, you stretch an $11 million budget on a movie of this scope. It's just a testament to his just filmmaking skill, regardless of whether or not he's a Star Trek fan.
Exactly. Yep. I agree 100%. So the sets look good, but before we grade, how about the fact that the uniforms upgraded?
I was hoping we'd talk about this.
Of course we are, because it deserves to be discussed, because as if you listen to the first episode, the Starfleet uniforms look like jumpsuits.
Yeah. This is another example of Nick Meyer's very strong influence, because again, while not being a Star Trek fan, this is a guy who has a deep knowledge, respect for whatever of the military. And while I'm sure it didn't sit well with Gene, even though the structure had always been there, captain, commander, lieutenant, the naval kind of tradition aboard Starfleet vessels. Nick Meyer really, as his own words from Nicholas Meyer, he laid it on with a trowel.
Yeah.
Because here we have, these beautiful burgundy jackets with rank insignia, clearly displayed on shoulders and cuffs. Kirk comes aboard the Enterprise, and there's a bosun's whistle and all this. It's it's an influence of Nick Myers that lasts literally for years, because you see those uniforms in every movie after this up until the handoff to Next Generation. And even that, like, you know, using much more nautical decor. Like if you look at Kirk's his home apartment on Earth, you know, he's got some very, you know, sailing ship era memorabilia on his walls, you know, flintlock pistols and stuff like that. Yeah, it's definitely Nick Myers' stamp on Trek.
Yeah, and again, we would get accustomed to that color scheme throughout the rest of the decade and the early part of the next decade. So on a 1 to 10, production quality, directing ability overall?
Yeah, I give it a 9. I mean, it's still, you know, it's when you're looking at clips that you're like, oh, that's from the previous movie. You know, it's a great cost cutting measure, but you're like, oh, they just recycled that. So not to crap on them, but you know, can't give them a perfect 10 if it's like that. But that's just me.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, our fifth category, the music.
Oh,
as you mentioned, we go through a 3-movie stretch where we do not have Jerry back. And we get kind of not a rotating, but for the next 2 movies, we have this gentleman.
Yeah, we got James Horner, who sadly is like Jerry Goldsmith, is sadly no longer with us, but a great talent nonetheless. You know, one of the great J's of film composers, Jerry, John, and James.
Yes.
But yeah, he put his own stamp on it. You know, everybody uses Alexander Courage's theme. You know, Jerry uses it, James uses it here. So you'll always hear a score start with ba 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 ba, and then it'll go into whatever that particular composer has come up with. And in this case, it's James Horner's very rousing, is the best word I can come up with, theme, da 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 da, and all that. But of course, James Horner, being James Horner, could never help himself and not insert what many film music fans will refer to as his danger motif, which is the very simple da 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 da, which is all over this movie. And
yes, it is.
Pretty much every movie he's ever scored. It's right at the beginning of the soundtrack track, Surprise Attack, which is where Enterprise and Reliant face off. But yeah, no, it's great because the best part, in my opinion, of his score is the build up to the track is called Kirk's Explosive Reply. It's after Khan has revealed himself, and Kirk is coming up with a plan to use the prefix combination code to unlock the Reliant and bring down their shields remotely. And as this scene is playing out, James Horner's just he's playing it very subtly. And as the scene plays out, it's kind of building and building and building and ramping up until finally the Enterprise enters that code and they just start firing on the Reliant, and the music just crashes at you.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I apologize for using that word, but it's the one that keeps coming out of my mouth. James Horner definitely leaves his mark on Star Trek with this movie, to the point where they asked him back for the one after this. So yeah, Jimmy Horner definitely gets a 10 on this one.
Okay, Khan. Here it is.
Here it comes. Yeah.
Here it comes. Raise them. I can't. Fire. Oh, so great. And then, of course,
I get one last thing. Just that whole ending with them in the nebula, where it's a submarine battle. Again, that goes back to Nick Myers' little fascination with the Navy. It's literally a submarine battle. It's these 2 blind starships firing at each other in this smoky purple nebula, and there's that one point where the music just cuts out, and there's just shots of people on the 2 bridges looking at the screen, trying to get a glimpse of something, and then you suddenly see something, and then just the horns just come up, and it's just like James Horner.
So good. There's that moment of silence. It's just as good as the scene in the motion picture, except like 16 minutes shorter, where they're just staring at the nebula, and the Enterprise and the Reliance playing that cat and mouse thing, and all you hear is you hear a slight murmur, but then you hear the static.
Sort of like bridge sounds and
and the static on the screen.
Is like there's tension here. There's enormous tension because as soon as somebody gets a glimpse, they're gonna start shooting. They're not flying through a cloud this time.
No. And you hear all you hear is the like the static on the because you're going into the nebula, so all the shit's going down. So what do you give Jared? What do you give James?
Horner gets a 10. Horner gets a 10. It's a fantastic score. I was listening to it this week, to get myself amped up for this recording. I was just like, this is such an amazing score. And the last piece of it that I love, that sounds nothing like anything else in the movie, is his Spock theme. It's just simply titled Spock. It's the scene that plays between Kirk and Spock when he goes to ask him for command, and it's just this kind of like, I don't even know what instruments he uses, but it's just got this ethereal, for lack of a better description, Vulcan sound to it. Just this kind of subtle, soft, alien melody. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. If you have a chance to listen to the Star Trek 2 score, please listen to it. Yeah, it's amazing. Now, of course, before we add up our totals and wrap it up, we do have to discuss the big plot point that happens at the end of the film. Oh, and that is the gut punch that is the death of Spock. They have to go in and fix the hyper thing to get out of there, or else the Genesis explosion is going to chew them up. Spock just goes in there, puts gloves on, opens up the warp core thing, sticks his hand in it. All right, you're good. It's like he churned it like butter. Yeah. Puts the thing back on. They get to go. They're safe. And of course, he gets radiation poisoning and dies. And the scene where they're on either side of the glass and they do the live long and prosper. Yeah, I literally to this day have no idea what he did in there. No, it looks like he just like swirled it like butter. Like he stuck his hand in there, swirled the nuclear power and went, all right, we're good. Yeah, he just pulls the cap off of this random pedestal and just like, I don't know, releases pressure, whatever. But what's great about it is it's not important what he does. It's all about the act itself. And, Spock goes in, he does this little mysterious mind meld moment with McCoy, which of course is part of your sequel setup. And then, Spock, it's this absolutely wonderful moment, to this day. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it, but, it gets you every time. There they are separated by that piece of plexiglass and, the words they exchange, and again, it's a great example of Harve Bennett's writing or, his contribution to the writing about all these wonderful callbacks in the script. Like one of them is at the beginning when Kirk says, how do you feel? He's like, oh, old, worn out. And at the end, he says, I feel young, this cool bookend. And here it is. It again, in the earlier scene between Spock and Kirk, he says, I have been and always shall be your friend. The ship is yours. And then here we are at the end, and he gives the whole speech about ship out of danger, and he puts his hand on the glass. He goes, I have been and always shall be your friend. And it's heartbreaking. And live long and prosper. It's just, and then Spock dies. Yeah. Awful. Gut punch. Ugh. Gut punch. So he gets shot out of the, and the quote Kirk says with the whole human thing. The funeral scene. Of all the souls I have encountered in my travels, his was the most human. It's magnificent. Crazy. 10, 9, 10, 9, 10. A 48 out of 50. No surprise there. Now, as terms of multimedia, or if you'd like to watch it, I think if you watch it streaming, it's the theatrical. On the Blu-ray set, the Stardate collection that I mentioned in the last episode, it is also the theatrical. Now, unlike the motion picture, the theatrical version of this movie is perfectly fine. It's literally just like a handful of inserted lines. Yeah, it's nothing crazy. Yeah, nothing terribly thought-provoking in terms of additions to the plot. No. But if you want to get that one, again, buy the DVD, the 2-disc collector's edition. That is the extended cut. You can also get that one on Blu-ray, actually. They have it separately. It's they actually did that. They did a separate 35th anniversary
because when the 35th anniversary in, my God, it was 2017, when Fathom Events released it, you and I went.
We sure did.
It was damn good. It was the second time I'd seen it. I saw it in the movies when it first came out in 1982.
You know what disappoints me about that Blu-ray though? While the cover art is, pretty cool, I don't know. I don't know who the artist is. Nichelle Nichols is absent from that cover, and that never sat well with me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that. Now, the original poster, the original Bob Peak poster, is pretty awesome. It's Khan and then various guys and the ships and everything, and it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, him just like looming over them with his arms crossed. Yeah, it's amazing.
Iconic another excellent Bob Peak poster. Okay, so in a year that this movie came out, I'm about to rattle off to you the other movies that came out in 1982. The ones that matter, obviously. Okay. Swamp Thing. No, I'm just kidding. Although that was very good, actually. The sequel to Death Wish, which was actually a big deal at the time, Death Wish 2. Let's see. All right, I'll pick the nerd ones. Sorry. Cat People, which is actually a big deal for Universal because of another movie that came out later in the year. Let's see. Forbidden World came out in May. Conan the Barbarian came out May 14th. Rocky 3, Clubber Lang. By the way, how about the month of frigging June? Are you ready for this, sir? The month of June. Ready for this? On June 4th, as I mentioned, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan came out. Guess what else came out that night? That day.
Please, tell me.
Poltergeist.
Ah!
Little Toby Hooper action. June 11th. E.T.
Oh, yeah.
And Grease 2. Just to let you know. E.T. June 18th, couple of other movies. June 25th. On the same day. Blade Runner.
Oh, and Blade Runner, yeah.
And The Thing, which I just watched earlier, which I watched last week with a coworker of ours. I hadn't talked to you about that because you were off there this week. The Thing and Blade Runner came out the same day. That summer, by the way, again, strictly pop culture nerd movies, Secret of NIMH came out 4th of July weekend. Oh, July 9th was Tron. Let's see. Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D came out August 13th. The Beastmaster came out the 20th. Amityville 2, The Possession, which was a big deal. Pink Floyd's The Wall came out. That was a big deal, actually.
Here's a Trek tie-in for you. Megaforce, starring Persis Kambata from Star Trek.
Exactly, which came out the same day as Blade Runner and The Thing. So, First Blood, which would be the first of many Rambo movies. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which ended up not doing that great, but ended up becoming a cult movie. Creep Show. 48 Hours, not a bad movie with Eddie Murphy. Airplane 2, the sequel. The Toy came out the same day as that. Two great comedies.
Airplane 2 also featuring William Shatner.
That's right. Why aren't I notified about these things? And at the end of the year, to coincide with Secret of NIMH, The Dark Crystal came out. Yeah. And Tootsie, by the way.
And The Last Unicorn.
And Trial of the Pink Panther, or Trail of the Pink Panther. So needless to say, 1982 was a pretty damn good year for movies.
Yeah, big year.
I do concur with you, and we'll talk about it because we will be talking about a movie that came out that year.
We will.
1989, I think, is a little better.
Yeah.
1989 was the year of amazingly awesome sequels, and one incredibly awesome, period. So.
And two not so awesome.
And not so awesome ones, yes. And then the horror, the trilogy of horror, a Nightmare movie came out, a Friday movie came out, a Halloween came out, and those were all also mixed too. So we'll get into 1989 soon.
Yes.
48 out of 50 is our final grade. So 12 points ahead of the motion picture Needless to say, it is my favorite Star Trek movie of all time. I don't say nothing comes close. I'm not saying that because there is a movie that we'll talk about in a few episodes that comes very close for me. I know it's not at your top of your list, but you have it at number 2. I would assume.
Sure do.
Yeah. The one that you have at number 1 is perfectly amazing, and we'll get to that one in a few episodes. But for me, this is the best one, my favorite. And it turns out it's the beginning of a trilogy.
It is. It's so odd that there's a Star Trek trilogy not at the beginning of the franchise.
No.
Well, I mean, kind of at the beginning. But yeah, Star Treks 2, 3, and 4 are the quote-unquote Star Trek trilogy. Funny enough.
Yes. Yep, it is. And that'll be our next episode. So when we come back, our next episode, which will be right here on the Pop feed, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Why are we searching for him? Isn't he dead? Yeah, right. Like we thought that was going to happen. We'll talk more about that, though, about our perception of that in the next episode. Tek, we know where everyone can find you. I won't make you do it all over again. You can find him on Twitter at...
Oh, I have to say...
I want to softball it to you. So.
I thought you were going to say, Twitter at Hal Dameron,
yes.
And on Instagram at Technicolor, TTRKNIKOLR.
There you go. And you can find me, of course, at PTB Podfather, and of course follow the brand at Place to Be Nation. Great episode, nice and neat and tidy. We will go out, even though Jerry's not in this one, we're going to go out with the Star Trek theme because it's so damn good. In fact, every episode's going to come out with it, even if Jerry's not doing the theme, the score. Hope you enjoyed it. Throw this movie in because it's damn good. He's Tek. I'm Scott. Buried alive. Gone!